Purnima. So today let us continue with epidemiology. In the last class, we understood what is epidemiology, and we discussed the definition of epidemiology, tried to understand it in a proper way, right? And we also understood the uses of epidemiology and two major types of epidemiology. Okay, so let us continue today to understand how the basics of epidemiology work with relation to your study material. And also let us learn some of the terminologies which are used in epidemiology. Okay. So when we go for epidemiology, these are the three basic questions which we need to answer, which we need to find out. In the last class, we were speaking about disease detectives, right? So all the disease detectives like lab assistants and yourself and everybody who assists you to understand how the diseases come out, how they work, how they spread, etc., have to answer these three questions. Why now? Why here, and why in this group? What do this mean? Let us expand these questions a little bit more. Why some diseases occur at the same time and not at others? Okay, why now? Why at this time? What is the speciality of this time movement? Why diseases occur in some places and not others? Okay, so what is the speciality of that place? Okay, Desha. Then why some people get diseases and why others don't get? Okay, so you might have studied this already, right? In Vyadikshamatva, we say that there are people who get the infection and there are people who don't get the infection even when they are exposed to the same amount of conditions, all the conditions, infectious material and everything, right? So we do get these questions. Now, let us once again reframe these questions. Study of the occurrence and distribution of disease, right? The descriptive epidemiology. So these questions represent three things: time, place, and person. Okay. So are you clear about this? So when we are going to describe any epidemiological event, we need to have information regarding these three things: time, event, and person. Now, what does these three categories of descriptive epidemiology give idea about? Okay, the first thing is the person. Person is who is getting sick. Okay, why some people get sick and why some people do not get sick. It gives idea about place. Where is the sickness occurring? Okay, for example, right now the COVID situation, where all the places where the disease is spreading really fast and where it is not spreading. Okay, so what is the difference between the place? Then the time. When is the sickness occurring? Is the time related to age, or is it related to season, or is it like a environmental factor or yearly factor? Like, does it have a cyclic period? Okay, so all these things matter. So let us understand it as PPT. Okay, short form: person, place, time. Okay, you can vary the sequence, that is fine. But remember, person, place, and time. Now, any definition should have these particular three components. It might be important definitions, or it might be any event for that matter, epidemiological event. Okay, this is how everything is defined in epidemiology. So bear in your mind that whenever you are speaking in epidemiological language, you have to cover these three factors. Okay, so these are the important keys. Now let us move ahead. Understand what the person, place, and time mean. Now, when we say person, we are trying to understand everything about him. We are trying to understand what is the age group, what is the gender group, is there any ethnic group relation, okay? And yes, of course, any genetic predisposition which is affecting the body and deciding whether the person should get sick or not. Okay, you might have understood it already right now after learning Vyadikshamatva in the first year, that Not everybody, some people are strong, like if there are the prakriti is sama prakriti, okay, they will not get affected by diseases that easily. But if the prakriti is single dosha prakriti or something like this, then yes, the disease affection will be much more greater than that of sama prakriti. So in the same way, genetic predisposition. Then concurrent diseases. Does the person have any other diseases currently in his body which might facilitate infection or acquiring a new disease? Like for example, if AIDS is there, if the person is having AIDS, it is said that the person will never die because of AIDS. AIDS will never kill the person, but it will reduce the immunity so much that the other infections will come in and establish, and thus giving rise to a deadly disease. For example, tuberculosis. Most of the AIDS patient get the infection of tuberculosis, and they cannot get treated properly, they cannot get cured properly no matter what, and that causes their death. Okay, then coming to diet, physical activity, and smoking is a representative of this, but bad habits. Okay, so what kind of diet does the person have which can affect the person's immunity? For example, right now, everybody is worried about these things. Everybody is trying to have a very healthy diet. Everybody is trying to have good physical activity. Okay, so that they improve their health. They are stopping all the bad habits. Okay, so this is how it helps to develop the innate power of the person, like yukti ja vyarikshamata in a way. Okay, then risk taking behavior. Does the person is very does he take any risks? Is he adventurous? Okay, sometimes that is not a good trait. If you are taking risk, you have to think twice whether it is worth taking or not. Okay, so for example, right now the COVID situation is going on. The government and the medical authorities are urging to wear mask, to maintain all the precautions, hygienic precautions, etc. Right? But if I'm a risk taker, I go out without mask, I don't sanitize my hands after coming back, so definitely I'll get infection. Virus is not something which should be trifled with, right? So in the same way, if you are taking risk, make sure that it is worth taking risk. Okay, you are ready to face the consequences. But it sometimes becomes foolishness to take risk. So we have to understand the fine boundary between foolishness and actual adventurousness. Okay, then what is his level of education? Is he educated? Usually there is a notion that the educated people are more careful. They are more well behaved. Okay. So whether it is true or false, what is his occupation? Because yes, occupation also plays a lot of importance in this scenario, especially for diseases to occur. It might be communicable or non-communicable. Okay, for example, if the person is a municipal worker, he has greater risk of getting the infection than a person who is a like a technician or who works from home, right? Okay, so in the same way, the occupation also plays a part. So overall, the thing is, the person's whole detail should be known to us before we decide why he got that disease. Maybe there are these factors because of which the person got the diseases, right? Okay. Now coming to the place. Now, place also has lot of other factors. Presence of agents or vectors. For example, if there are some countries where the virus has not entered yet, okay, so those places are safe. There are countries where the virus is well established. Those countries or those places are a little bit dangerous, right? So in that way, presence of agents. Agents or vectors, agents, we'll understand these terms in a better way in coming classes, are the disease causing agents like viruses, bacteria, bacilli, etc. All these things. Now coming to climate. Whether climate plays an important part in transmitting the disease or not. Okay, because some diseases or some agents or virus or bacteria are very compatible for spreading in rainy season or in dry season, like this. Okay, the way how the virus or bacteria or disease causing agent, infective agent, adapts itself to the environment depends on what kind of environment it prefers, whether it prefers more of moisture, whether it prefers more of airy condition, so like that, right? Then comes the geology. Geological factors matter a lot. Okay, so whether the virus is like more common in some forests. Okay, you might have heard there are some diseases which occur in particular regions. Okay, maybe Africa or Indian particular patches, Himalayan region or something, right? So whether the climate or geology play important part, yes, they do. Population density, very important one, especially for infective diseases. See that why India was considered very dangerous place for virus to spread, because we have a lot of population, this density, very high density of population. So the people come into contact very often, and thus the risk of spreading the infection is very high. That is what we are looking at, the numbers, right? Right now it is spreading like anything, multifold spreading. Economic development. Economic development plays a part wherein you are very confident, like if the hygiene can be maintained in a proper way, you can bear the cost of maintaining the high level of hygiene or not. Okay, then nutritional practices. What kind of practice does the country have in general? Okay, whether they are healthy or they are fast food, what is a kind of a generation. Okay, so if there is a fast food generation, then yes, definitely the nutritional status will be low and the disease acquiring quality will be very high. Whereas if the nutrition is classic one, ancient nutritional practices are being followed, they are usually healthy and they will help us improve our immune system in a better way. Medical practices also play a part, whether the medical facilities are good or not. That also holds the importance. You already understand that difference, right? Okay, so this is about place. Now let us understand about the time factor. But we'll go into a little bit of details about the time factor. Okay, so time, a lot of things like maybe calendar time, that is year wise, or time since an event, like last pandemic when it occurred. Since then, what is the time period spent? Whether there is a pattern, say for example 100 years, every 100 years we are getting pandemic or something. Okay, so like that. Physiological cycles, especially like for example for ladies during pregnancy. Okay, there are some diseases or infection which happen only during pregnancy or during young age, or during menopause, or during like this. There are different physiological cycles which are prone to a particular set of diseases. Okay, then age, yes, whether childhood diseases, geriatric diseases. Okay, then seasonality, whether the disease is a seasonal one, like every rainy season you get malaria, you get cholera. Okay, so in that way. Then are there any different trends as well? Like in the year there are some dips and ups for the diseases. So let us understand this in a little bit of detail. Yes, we divide time into these four factors: secular time, periodic time, seasonal time, and epidemic time. Okay, so let us understand what is secular. Secular trend is something where when a disease is present for a very long time, So these terminologies we should remember. Okay, when you're describing a disease, you have to tell whether it is a seasonal disease. Yes, cholera or malaria. Yes, seasonal disease. You can tell that. And common cold or flu, secular trend. Okay, it is continuously present. So secular is a long-term disease which is continuously occurring. For example, tetanus. Tetanus has never gone out of fashion in any time. Maybe the what you say, infection might have reduced, but yes, the disease is there, right? Okay, we still say that if we get like an infection, or we get a scratch of a nail, rusty nail or something, immediately we come back and we take a tetanus injection, right? So in the same way. Okay, see, if you see the graph, okay, so it is continuously, it is reducing, okay, but it has not touched the ground. It has not touched the base. That means the disease is continuously there. It has never stopped being there. Okay. Then coming to the next one, periodic trend. Now what is periodic trend? Interruption of general trend of secular variation. See, usually in general term, the disease is secular. Okay. It is always present, but there are some moments, period of time when the disease has dipped, okay, to nearly nil, or it has peaked. For example, whooping cough. See how the, what you say, dipping is working. The disease is constantly there. It has never stopped being or existing. But there are sudden peaks and downs, and peaks and downs, and peaks and downs, and a very regular interval, nearly regular interval, right? Okay, so this is how the what you say, periodic trend works. Interruption of general trend of secular version. Understood this? Let us go to the next one, seasonal one. Seasonal, you must already be familiar with, right? A cyclic variation in disease frequency by time of the year and season. Okay, so rainy season disease, winter season disease, summer season diseases. Okay, so like this, you can differentiate between different seasons. Even in Rutucharya also, the person, what diseases might affect the person are given, right? It might be infective or non-infective, it doesn't matter. But the seasonal change does cause that disease. And that is what makes it a seasonal disease. Now, seasonal fluctuations occur in different ways, right? So environmental factors play an important role, like moisture, temperature, all these things, wind, etc., dryness, everything plays an important factor in influencing the disease process or spread. Then occupational activities also change according to the season. Okay, so some seasons, like for example, summer activities, summer season, the occupation changes a little bit. Rainy season, the occupation changes. Like everything changes. We prefer different clothing, we prefer different food items, and depending on that clothing and food item, even the occupation change. Okay, during rainy season or winter season, warm food, this sellers are more, and during summertime, chats and all become more available. So like this. Okay, so in the same way, recreational activities, you go for tourism in summertime, you don't go for tourism in the rainy season, right? So in the same way, the adventure activities and everything change according to the season, and this kind of helps in spreading the diseases. Okay, so even though they are seasonal, they need to spread. The environmental factors might kind of help them in a better way, but human beings have to interact to spread the diseases, especially the infective diseases. Now coming to the seasonal trend, you can see that influenza death by year, if you see pneumonia or influenza, every particular season it has peaked. Only seasonal. Those are the years. Okay, so these are years from 1934 to 79. Yearly, the peak has occurred. Okay, the peak is yearly. So you understand how the seasonal trend works? And yes, epidemiology, everything has to come back on the graph sheet. Now, let us understand a couple of terms which are used. See, you have understood what is time, how the time is defined, what is person, when we say person, what all things we have to understand, and what is place, right? So now let us understand some terminologies which are used in epidemiology, especially when you are speaking from now onwards, you have to use these terminologies in a proper way. Okay, and these definitions, mostly if you observe, they contain these components as well, like either the time is specified, the population is specified, or something period is specified. Okay, fine. So the first term is incidence. You might have heard this term a lot nowadays, especially like the incidence of COVID is this and this. Okay, fine. But for general public, they might have used general common terminologies, but for medical personnel or for professionals, these are the terminologies what you should be using. Now, incidence refers to the number of new cases occurring in a defined population during a specified period of time. Okay, see, this is a 2-mark question. Usually these questions are asked either the incidence of a particular disease might be asked, or definition of the incidence might be asked, or its variations might be asked, or it can be asked in a group of question as well for your exam. But these are very important, these terminologies, so you have to understand them before you bahut the definitions. Okay, yes, and you have to bahut the definitions as well. Yes, now the number of new cases. What is new cases? What is cases? Cases means any disease. Okay, so right now let us take COVID disease. So a new case of COVID disease. Okay, a new person is getting infected, that means he is a case of COVID disease. Let us understand this as a new infection right now, but we'll discuss about what the case meaning is later. Okay, so number of new cases occurring in a defined population. Okay, so every time if the population is not mentioned, that means we have to define the population in a given population, they might say. Okay, sometimes they might not use the term population, but you have to know that every time we have to have these 3 components in every definition: person, place, and time, PPT. Remember this. So new cases are the persons, population, defined population. Place will be defined and everything will be defined in the population. Okay, for example, in Indian population or in the population of Karnataka. Okay, so in that way. Or it might also mean a particular category in the population of doctors. Okay, in the population of teachers, in the population of students, etc. So new cases and specified period of time, a particular period of time. We might say from this date to this date, okay? Or we might say in this month, in this week, on this day, on this day at this period of time, a point period, okay? So we might define time according to our convenience. Say for example, on this date, there are so many 1,800 new cases in India, or in particular in Maharashtra or in Karnataka, okay? 300 new cases in Bangalore, okay? So like this. So anyway, the important thing is, remember, these are new cases which have occurred just now on this day, okay? Now, the same definition but a little bit of variation is that of prevalence. In prevalence, we have the current cases, current number of cases, old plus new, total number of cases, okay? That is prevalence. So I hope you understand the difference. Incidence is new cases, prevalence is old plus new cases. Now what is the definition? The definition goes like this: the total number of all individuals, total number of cases who have an attribute or disease. Okay, whoever have the signs and symptoms of a particular disease, for example, COVID. Right now, let us think about that because you are getting more and more familiar with it. So let us only concentrate on that. So the number of people who have COVID or who have had COVID in previous days, who might have recovered as well, okay, or who might have died, okay, whatever the end of the disease is, death, disability, or complete cure, any three results. But we are totally considering them. Right now, whatever cases are coming up new, plus whatever were there in the past, together they call them as prevalence of the disease. Okay, the total number. The total number of all individuals who have an attribute or disease at a particular time period, divided by population at risk of having an attribute or disease at a particular time or midway through the period. Okay, so total number of people who are having the disease right now and total number of population of the country who might get the infection. You divide it and you get the rate of prevalence. Okay, understood? See, prevalence is old plus new cases, whichever are active right now, and prevalence rate is understood by dividing the individual total number of cases by total number of population at risk. Okay, so now let us just understand it in this way, then we'll go in details again later. But there are two dividends. One is like a total population at risk. Okay, population at risk, or the time period of population when the midway was there. Okay, so for example, this is over, then we will find out which was the midway and what was the population at that point of time, midway of the total period of infection. So that is considered as the dividing factor. So there are two types of prevalence: point prevalence and period prevalence. Point prevalence is a very particular one. Okay, so for example, on 5th July at maybe 12 o'clock, okay, midday, 12 o'clock, whatever number of cases are there, old plus new, that becomes point prevalence. At this point of time, this is the prevalence. So that becomes point prevalence. But I don't want that particular information. Okay. So I want to know in a particular week, how many cases were there? What was the prevalence in, say, first week of July? So then comes the period prevalence handy. Period prevalence is the proportion of population with a given disease or condition over a specific period of time. Okay, it might be annual, it might be monthly, or it might be even 1 week or any number of days, 10 days or anything. You can specify whatever period you want. The period is your, at your disposal. Okay, so you understand, point prevalence is very specific to even date, time, and everything to the last moment. And period is something which is having some days to months or years or anything of that matter. A particular period of a calendar time. Understood this? Okay, if you have any doubts, please post them as questions. Now coming to the very famous term, that is infection. Okay, we are very much using this term. Everybody is using this term. Even a child, school going child, or even household child will know what is infection, right? They are using this term infection, but do they know proper meaning of this infection? Maybe they might know that yes, infection is something when we get the disease. They are right, that is one definition. Let us understand what infection means in a proper way. Okay, so infection is defined as the entry and development or multiplication of a infectious agent in the body of man or mammals. Let us split it. Okay, so the term entry fast of infectious agent. Okay, what is the first step? The first step is the infectious agent should enter inside our body. Okay, see, if we are not wearing mask, if we are taking risk, if we are not being hygienic enough, the infectious agent will enter inside our body. Now, what should it do? It should not stop there. If it is just entering inside, it is not causing infection. Okay, but if the immune system is weak, what happens? The infective agent will develop or it will multiply. Develop in the sense when there is a worm or something, enter inside and it will grow. Okay, and multiplication in case of viruses, it will enter and it will start to multiply immediately. Fine. So when it multiplies, it enters and multiplies, enters and multiplies. Remember this. Only then we call this as infection. Okay, not the disease but infection. It doesn't mean that the disease is established. It means that the infection has occurred. Okay, now person is given as man or mammal, any person, any body which is host for the infection. Okay, now coming to some particular points you should note in this definition. Infectious agent means the agent we discussed previously, right? Any virus, bacteria or organism, microorganism, fungus, anything for that matter. Okay, fine. So that is infectious agent. Now, even though the infectious agent enters inside, to develop or to multiply, it has to invade the immune system. Okay, so the immune system has to either go down at a regional way. Maybe the infection is in skin, then the skin immune system has lowered. That's why it has established there to multiply. Okay, or to develop, it needs to kind of attack our immune system. So our immune system also plays an important role in getting the infection. If it is good, then the infective agent, even if it enters inside, it will not multiply or develop. But if your immune system is low, then as soon as it enters inside, it will develop or multiply. Okay, so remember this. The infection to occur, it needs two factors importantly. One, entry of the infective agent inside us. We need to have a portal through which it enters inside. Then our internal environment of immune system should be low enough for us to get the infection. Okay, now let us move ahead. There are various types of infections. See, for example, the infections are classified by one thing, causative organism. What kind of organism is causing the infection? For example, virus infection, bacterial infection. You might have heard these terminologies, right? Fungal infection. Okay, so that is category of infection by what you say, based on the causative organism. Now, then as well as the signs and symptoms, medical symptoms and the signs produced. What kind of infection it is? Okay, whether it is a variation of fever or what are the signs and symptoms produced? Based on that also it is classified. Okay, let us understand that in the next slide, but keep that in mind. In what way the signs and symptoms are produced, in that way the classification is given. Then there is another category of infection called acute infections and chronic infections. Okay, so I hope you are already familiar with this. Acute means very short term infection. Immediately the infection has occurred, you get cold and then it develops into disease, and flu is there or influenza is there or COVID is there, whatever it is. Okay, or long term chronic infections, like especially the skin infection, the fungal infections especially, or tuberculosis for example. Okay, it is a chronic disease. It doesn't get cured within weeks or months or something. Okay, it takes lot of time. So it becomes a chronic infection. Now you are clear about causative agent and acute and chronic infection. Let us understand a little bit more about symptoms and medical signs. Okay, so symptomatic infections are apparent. Apparent means that which you can already recognize. Okay, it is already visible for you. Apparent infection. For example, if you are infected with influenza virus, what are the signs and symptoms? What are the signs and symptoms of cold? It is very apparent. You sneeze, you have a runny nose, you have fever, you have headache, okay, malaise, etc. So it is very clear that it is influenza or it is flu or a common cold. Okay, so it is apparent. Symptomatic infections are apparent. Symptoms are very clear here. Okay, there are no hidden signs and symptoms, etc. Whereas an infection that is active but does not produce noticeable signs and symptoms may be called as inapparent, silent infection, or very important terminology, subclinical infection. Now, what is that? There are some patients of COVID who don't have any symptoms. Okay. By the laboratory test, you can understand that they do have the agent inside their body. But symptoms wise, signs wise, there are no signs and symptoms. They are very healthy. They are walking about, they don't have fever, they don't have any pains or anything, or respiratory problems or anything, right? So that is called as inapparent, silent, or subclinical infection. Understood this? Apparent, inapparent. Okay, silent or subclinical. Remember, this term is very important. Okay, now then there is a category of infections which happen like the agent enters inside, the entry is there, and then the immune power of the host or the person is very good, and the immune system is not allowing development or multiplication of the infective agent inside the body. Fine. So what does the agent do? But the immune system is not that strong to kill the agent totally. Okay. So what happens? The agent kind of resides in the body, but it is not multiplying. It is not developing. It is frozen. It kind of develops a protective sheet around it, and it kind of somehow survives in the body. Fine. So now what is the state? The entry is there. Infection is not properly, completely done. Okay, it is either developing in a very slow rate, either multiplying in a very, very slow rate, or it has frozen itself. It is hibernating. It is waiting for the agent's immune system to go down. As soon as the system goes down, it will erupt. Okay, so that kind of hibernating infection is called as latent infection. Okay, an infection that is inactive or dormant. It is kind of a sleeping infection. Okay, it is not active, very active. Fine. So latent infection. So there are three variations of infections. Remember this. Very apparent infection. We'll also give a different terminology for it later, but kind of think of it as a clinical case. A case, when we say a case of COVID. So it should be apparent one. Okay, it should have all the signs and symptoms. Then there is a subclinical case or latent, or silent case or inapparent case, inapparent infection. Okay, apparent, inapparent infections and latent infections. I hope you are understanding these three variations. Okay, if you have any doubts, please do. But it is very important that you understand these three categories, because in later coming things we'll be using this to understand a little bit more established factors as well. Okay, you can just rewind it and listen to this again if you want. Now coming to infestation. Okay, this term is again a little bit different one. infection refers to bacteria, viruses and all, but if it is arthropod, you should use the term infestation. They both have same meaning, only the agent differs. The lodgement, development and reproduction. See, we are not using the term multiplication here. We are using the term lodgement, development and reproduction of arthropods on the surface of the body or in the clothing or inside the body as well. Okay, it is called as infestation. Okay, lice infestation, itch mite infestation, etc. Of course, these are on the surface of the body, on the hair, etc. But even for parasitic worms like roundworm infestation, we don't call it as infection. If you are calling it as infection, that means you have not studied epidemiology properly. Okay, so roundworm infestation, tapeworm infestation, like this, lice infestation. Okay, so now you understand how the difference occurs. Okay, now let us understand what is contamination. Okay, contaminated doorknob, contaminated mask, contaminated gloves. So we use these terms, right? Okay, the presence of an infectious agent is called as contamination. Presence where the presence of the infectious agent on the surface of the body or on clothes, on beddings, toys, surgical instruments, or dressings, or any article for that matter, any substance, including water, milk, and food. Okay, if the infective agent is present on any article, it is termed as contaminated article. For example, if the infective agent is present on the book, okay, this is a contaminated book on the surface of the book. If it is present on the phone, it is a contaminated phone. Okay, so like this, on anything, if the agent is present, that means it is contaminated. That is called as contamination. Now, what is the difference between infectious disease and contagious disease? Okay, so infectious disease is a clinically manifested disease of man or animal resulting from an infection. You know what is infection, right? Entry and multiplication or development of the disease agent inside the body. It has happened, so it is infectious disease. Contagious disease, the disease that is transmitted through contact. For example, I touch a contaminated article. I get the infection and it spreads to me. Okay, so contagious diseases which can spread from contact. Then coming to communicable disease. Okay, fine. So communicable disease is also like a contagious disease, infectious disease, yes, but it has a specific definition. An illness due to a specific infectious agent or its toxic products, okay, capable of being directly or indirectly transmitted from man to man, animal to animal, or from environment to man or animal. Okay, so this is similar to communicable contagious disease, but there are some other specifications here. The infection should occur, specific infection, okay, but it might directly happen from the infected person to a new person, or it might indirectly get transmitted by contaminated food particle or contaminated articles. Okay, now the transmission can occur between two human beings or between two animals or birds, okay, or from environment to man or animal. Okay, environment, that is from infected water, contaminated water to a person, or contaminated water to a animal. Contaminated air, okay, to a new person. So that is indirect. Directly when you come in contact with the disease, the person who is having the disease. Okay, indirectly when there is another intermediate agent which can transmit the disease. Okay, so now you understand a little bit about the terminologies used, right? So let us understand what is epidemic, endemic, etc. terminologies in the next class. So let us recap. What all did we learn today? We understood how to have the questions under descriptive epidemiology. Okay, you understand why now, why here, okay, why in this particular place. So about why this particular person at this particular point of time. Okay, so time period, or what you say, a person period and a person, place and time. You have understood it. Now we learn different terminologies used in epidemiology like infection, infestation, contamination, contagious diseases, all these things, right? So yes, let us finish the class here today. In the next class, we'll definitely move ahead with the important terminologies of understanding what is epidemic and how does the diseases spread. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me today. Have a nice day. And if you have any questions, please post them or you can contact me for clarification. But before that, do open the book, sit with the book and listen to this class so that, and you can understand the things where they are coming and everything. This is the chapter of basics of epidemiology. So when you open the book, the basics part, the first part, these terminologies will be there. Okay, there are many more terminologies. Please go through them and let me know if you have any difficulties. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.